Hey, I'm Grant. Welcome to the Stay At channel for June 4th. The main thing I'm working on right now, I think, is just podcast and the website. I wish I could have more of a concrete thing to talk about, but I've been super busy with work. I was on call this weekend, which basically means I can't leave my house and can't really get anything done. But I'm able to sneak some in. I'm hoping to finish up all the JavaScript by this weekend, because after that I'll be going to like my React.js class, which again, I don't know if it's going to be helpful. It's mainly more for my actual job, but I assume it's going to come up with the other website. After that, then I feel like I'm going to be hitting the Ruby on Rails pretty hard, just because it's the biggest hump to get over. And if I can make sure I have the knowledge to build the site, then it's a lot easier to start breaking that work down into other sections. Like right now, learning Ruby on Rails or JavaScript is just this big insurmountable task where I don't know how long it's going to take, because I don't know what I don't know. I don't know the issues that are going to come up. But once I'm kind of over that, it's a lot easier for me to predict that, say, okay, I know what I want to do. Let me start taking steps towards that. Because once you have the knowledge, it's a lot easier to say, I need a page. How long do I think it's going to take me to make that page? That's an actual thing I can guess, and then you can go from there. Like obviously it's not going to be accurate, but you can kind of feel out. Whereas like if I open up a chapter in JavaScript, which is what I have right here, I don't know. I might be done with that chapter in 10 minutes, might be 4 hours. It just depends on kind of how it goes. And I think that's why it's so insurmountable. And sometimes, I'll be honest, it's easier to go do something more like personal that's easy to like fix. It's easier to go do laundry because I know it's going to take 15 minutes and I know I need to do it. So I feel like sometimes it is easy to just fall in this trap. Well, yeah, I'll do these 3 things that I need to get done legitimately, but I don't end up actually coming back and doing stuff like the website. Because, yeah, maybe that even takes less time, but it's this big, like, what if? It's this big monster of a task. And I think that's kind of gotten me in like a funk lately, where I really haven't been producing anything besides the podcast and now this. And even, I really didn't feel like I had much to say last week because it's like I kind of just repeating myself. But I've had a lot going like through my head, and something I'll talk about on the podcast, number 20 probably, is just I really want to start moving towards doing a more concerted effort on like what the channel is, what the website's going to be, what I'm essentially doing with this whole effort. I really don't have a name for it yet. The YouTube channel represents a lot of it, but then it's also like what I would do with, say, my Twitter, my streaming, my training outside of work, just how I like improve my own life. That's all kind of wrapped up in this effort, and I'm trying to figure out, I guess, the next step. A lot of the stuff I've done for the channel so far was done for specific reasons. I talk about this, I feel like, a lot when it comes up. Where Dead Rising 1, the master one, that was me learning how to make a video. Just a technical, can I take what I want and make it a video? And that was very difficult at the time. Dead Rising 2, that was an effort to, can I take what I've done and make it a series? Can I really sit down and make it a massive project? No longer worry individual episode by individual episode. Instead, here's this whole big thing I'm going to commit to and do it. And that kind of worked. And then you look down the line, all these other stuff, and then I got to the point where I was really schedule driven. That's when you see stuff like the podcast every 2 weeks, Stay the Channel every week, so on. And like I still would love the idea of doing a Let's Play every single day just to keep stuff out, because the point was the schedule. The point was, honestly, if you look at stuff like this, you can't put out a perfect product just because it's going to take too much time. And you learn more, I guess a good way to say it is you learn the most in like the first 80% of the project. A great example being trying to get the right set of recording settings on all my cameras, all the import stuff, all that. I only learn more about that when I film something new. Just going over the same footage again and again really doesn't give me the same value, even though it makes the actual product itself get better. Because the focus, again, was to teach myself stuff, not really to produce anything that was sellable for the channel. And that's something that I think is actually very important to understand about how my channel is. I really didn't set out to make something big or crazy, because otherwise I would have pursued the stuff that I knew did well. I could make OSRS videos that have like really clickbait titles. I know that does well. I could go down the route of just doing Dead Rising guides. I have the knowledge, and while those aren't explosive, those have consistent audiences. That'd be something that, again, is very nice in a linear set of work where I just have to sit down and do stuff. Like take the Lightworks tutorials. It's very easy to find new topics to do that on. And even just do small variations. Here's how you do X in the Y interface. Here's how you do X in the Z interface. And those are all very set amount of times, and they have value. Again, they're not going to be like viral, but it's very easy to see stuff like I constantly get or will check on the Dead Rising 1 Cletus boss fight guide. It's not huge, but it's something where it's clear, like it's by far the best guide out there on that. It doesn't have the stats quite yet to show it up because obviously it's not a huge game anymore. But it is consistently getting like, I don't know the actual number, like consistent videos every single month, consistent views. Just because it's always going to be valuable as long as that game's even remotely relevant. And I could do stuff like that. Same with the Lightworks tutorials. Always going to be relevant to someone, even if it's not like, boom, amazing. So I would have pursued stuff like that if I really wanted to make the channel big, but I didn't because I never really felt like I found what my niche was. I look at stuff like, yeah, Dead Rising is interesting, but I don't want a Dead Rising channel. I know I've seen people have built it up around Dead Rising, but ultimately, like, I don't even like it that much. I just know a lot about it, and it was really the perfect storm to use for the channel. Same with like OSRS. I don't particularly want to build an OSRS channel, but I do think that might be a next stepping stone, kind of like Dead Rising was for the initial start. That could be a really good thing for some intermediary steps to grow stuff. I'm really not into like, I don't want to make Destiny videos, even though I made a couple. I like the podcast, but at the same time, the podcast needs a ridiculous amount of work before it comes to the quality level I would like. Just simply scheduling stuff consistently, or having an intro, an outro, having effects in the middle. Like I used to put like things we're talking about up on the screen, or I'd have like, it would cut away and have a video or something, or I could overlay just two people talking to each other. And I can still do that, but right now, there's just not room in my schedule to do like a third pass on those. And I'm still trying to figure out what I want out of that. So that's really, I think, the thing that I've been thinking about a lot in the last 2 weeks is like, maybe it's time to move towards something where I actually do want like a niche. And I don't know what that is. I've always had an interest in doing some more live action stuff. That's actually one of the two reasons that I made the podcast, is to do like live action practice, as well as the fact that it's a little easier to understand what a podcast is to someone who doesn't like, if I'm doing like Dead Rising stuff, that's not really something I can explain to my parents, but it's easy to get a podcast, even if you don't particularly care what's on it. So I've always definitely wanted to be able to do, or at least have the capacity to do more stuff like streaming, or just, I would love the idea of doing like a little video short, maybe like 2 minutes. And that's something that still is very hard to do with a solo person. And I think that's kind of what I would like to move towards, and maybe just keep trying stuff out and finding what it is I want to do and what I really want to roll with. So I don't know, I'm kind of rambling because I'm still like thinking about it right now. But I think what I've really been going over the past few weeks is just maybe a little bit like 2/3 self-improvement, 1/3 trying and fix some problems. So like a big thing is I wanted to talk about today is I talk a lot about improving my editing. And what that means I think isn't necessarily clear. Because to me what that means is things like removing audio bugs, improving how long it takes to like convert things, having better formats, cutting down my workflow, having a more streamlined workflow, all of these very technical things. But at no point do I really feel like I've ever taken back and had projects that are more artistic, where it's more of a question of like, okay, what is the pacing of this video? What should it be? And I feel like that's something where that would separate me from someone who actually does this as a job, is I can make a video. That was the point of the Dead Rising project stuff, right? Like, can you make a video? And I can. And it has all the info I wanted in it. But at the same time, I recognize the pacing isn't great. It's just kind of here's footage. And I think that's one reason I wanted to move to do live action stuff, is instead do something more where we have a script. I go out and I film scenes and dialogue, and then I cut it and try to really pace it out and understand why I'm doing the things I'm doing. Why do I want it to be faster? Why do I want it to be slower? And I think I'd like to move towards that. because now that I have all the technical skills, maybe it's time to learn some of the more artistic things. Like now that I can make a video, how do you make it entertaining? Or to go back to the metaphor I bring up a lot on the State of the Channel, you need to make something like really shitty before you make it like crappable, like crap. And then you have to make it like crap before you can make it watchable. And before you can make it, you need to make it watchable before you can make it good. And I feel like right now I'm really on the cusp between watchable and good, where like the podcast is watchable and at some points it is good. But it needs to be, I need to take stuff to the next level where it's like, this is interesting. This is good. I would want to watch this. And I feel like that's the cusp I'm trying to break. And that's where I feel like I need something more than just myself. Bringing other people. Actually set out and learn something. Like, be like, okay, I'm going to go take a class. Stuff like that. And I think that's what I've really been looking into the last 2 weeks, where I'm not necessarily working on stuff for the channel, but I was just going through and I was just looking at just different things. Like one of the things I would love to take is just like a sketching class. Because I've never been huge into art, and I don't consider myself very artistic, but I do recognize it'd be cool to be able to like sketch something. Like even just for D&D, like what's this building look like? It's this. What's this symbol? It's like, here you go. Or even just for the website, I know when I do like the CSS, I would like to be able to like sketch stuff out. Like this is how I want the template to look. This is how I envision this website. And not have it be all disproportional and stuff. Surprisingly, no classes in Omaha for that I can find. Still looking there. But I've been going through a lot of stuff like that. Like, hey, like we have a couple places with the community college, UNO, there's the Do Space in Omaha. I was just looking around like, is there anything on editing? Is there anything on Photoshop? And there kind of is. There's not exactly what I want, but I've been looking for something like that to maybe start myself in that direction. Because on one hand, it's like I'm not going to go like get a bachelor's in, I don't know, video editing. Like I'm not looking for that. I'm not looking for a career change. It's just something like, clearly I enjoy this stuff. What's the next path? Like someone brought up an interesting little idea on one of the subreddits for video editing that I follow, where it was just go watch a movie, take notes, and make a trailer. I can't monetize it, but that's not the point. It's just an exercise. And then compare like, what's yours like compared to like the real thing? Why is that stuff chosen? And I thought it was just a really interesting idea. And I feel like I can't get to the point more than just I'm hovering. I feel like between that cusp of like, it's time for me to do something greater than just like churning out videos every single day. Because I feel like that's what I've really gotten into now with a schedule where like, I now have the understanding and the workflow to be able to produce stuff. So now it felt like just churning out stuff turned more into like, yeah, I can do it, but there's not as much heart behind it. It just becomes, how much more stuff can I pump through? Instead of, this is really good. So that's been something on my mind that I'm really trying to tackle. And that's basically why I haven't been producing videos. It's like, all the stuff I need to work on isn't, like 4 videos aren't videos. And I think that's what I'd like to do. Like, I really would like to maybe also merge my channel more with my own life. I would love to start just taking videos of like things I'm doing with friends anyway and just cut it down to like a personal trailer. Like, here's something I find interesting. It's only relevant to us 3. I'm going to film it, cut it down, put some music over it. It's funny. Save it, post to Facebook, whatever. That's not the point. The point is just to make the thing because I think it's interesting. And that can be surprisingly hard, I feel like, to make the transition. So, and then I layer this in with everything else I'm doing. I'm still on a diet. I plateaued at like 180, and I've tried to like overcome that again. And right now I'm sitting at like 178, so it's going again. But man, does that take a lot of time. It's like basically a part-time job. I used to spend, I want to say, 10, 12 hours a week on that, just with running alone, and then you label in like dieting and all this extra stuff. Like I always think about that. Like if there shouldn't be things that I give up, and not even like running. I'm like, sometimes I think like today for breakfast, lunch, brunch, whatever, I waited so I didn't have to spend my calories. That's crazy. I made this awesome omelet. It had jalapenos, which are amazing. I got like jarred jalapenos. The juice is, I just wanted the jalapeno juice, honestly. The jalapenos are great, but the jalapeno juice, way better than fresh for some reason. Did all that. I put in a ton of onions, chopped those, put in green bell peppers. I put in ham I cut up. And I think, oh, that was good, that was nice. But at the same time, it's like, I could have saved myself 30 minutes if I just bought like a microwave dinner for lunch. I could have popped that in, got back to work. And this isn't exactly the only concern I have, but I do think about like, that's something I am spending my time on. And I feel like going through some of the other efforts I'm doing, I want to make sure I budget that stuff how I actually want it. Because that's the other thing I'm doing. I'm doing a lot more into time management and a lot more into like personal financial stuff. That because I have goals I'd like to reach. And in terms of budgeting time, I was thinking about that. Like, if it's a year from now, will I really have cared that I spend that extra 30 minutes to make a nice omelet on a Sunday? Or will ultimately me spending 30 minutes to make a state of the channel, let's say, on a day I might not, would that have mattered more? And I think that's just kind of me trying to figure that stuff out right now. I don't have an answer. Really, right now, my goal is I picked up a new program called Todoist where I'm really trying to, between that and my calendar stuff, set goals every single day. Because I would definitely say I'm a fairly disciplined person. I'll run like 5-6 days a week, pretty clean house, do all that. But I really want to make sure I'm doing certain stuff every single day. Like all my goals are advancing, and that's kind of how I have my effort to do that. And so that's one of my main goals, is to always have certain things, like I want this, I know it's advancing. And then to get over this hump of making the website, because I do think that's something I need, and is a very good mix between my personal life and my career, is being able to make a website and do like a web development or front-end development, because I'm more of a back-end developer. But it is a massive thing to get over that isn't very easy, and it's not very clear. So that's my goal. Not really sure how well it's going to go, but that's my goal. So, and then I also, somewhere in between there, want to explore a couple other ideas and maybe reach out and do some other things. Like I said, I still would love to meet some more people in Omaha who do a similar thing, just because I feel like one of the things I lack is like peers or like people to do stuff with that are on the same level. Because I'm like the only one I know in Omaha that does this whole thing. And it would be nice to like bounce ideas off someone, or just be like, hey, I'm having an issue, I can't seem to import this, do you have any idea why? I can chime in like, oh yeah, well, I don't use that format, try this. Maybe that might help me out. I don't know. So I'm just trying to figure out, I think I'm just trying to find a way. I think actually in a way, even though it feels like I'm kind of lost, where it's like I'm not really making videos, I'm kind of in a slump, I don't really feel like I'm getting better at JavaScript, I don't really feel like I'm getting more disciplined. I think I really am. It's just kind of like these growing pains as I figure out what's the next step. And I think it's going to be interesting when I'm over that. I have ideas. Like that's what I think is interesting, is like I have all these ideas, and I really do feel like I have the passion. It's just getting to the point where I can do them, or executing them fully is what's hard. And I think that's just something that comes with the hobby. So, as always, you can get hold of me over on Twitter. It's at taking4grantd, or my email, it's grant@taking4grantd.com, and I'll be back again next week.